Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Now, tell me, how crazy are each episode of this show going to be? I mean, is this just nonstop action from start to finish?
Pretty much, and the shows get crazier as the rounds go on, as people start learning how to control these giant robots. It's a two-person team, so they're forced to work together. They've never met each other before. We put them together. One of them is very technologically inclined. Some would say a nerd. I would say just a really smart dude. The other person is more of an athletic type, MMA fighter or personal trainer, army commander, Olympic athlete, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to work together to get these robots to do what they want them to do. And as the rounds progressed, they started learning the strategy, learning the chemistry, started learning the synergy of what it took to not have this robot as a foreign creature, but to have it as an extension of themselves. And that's when you really started seeing the sparks fly, and that's no pun intended, because as these fights started rolling, there's such powerful punching force with these robots. You'd see the armor would start to fly, sparks and fire and smoke, decapitations, amputations. One of the robots was cut in two, an evisceration. Any type of Asian you could possibly have, we had it in Robot Combat League. At points, it was like the opening scene in Saving Private Ryan, but with mechanical creatures rather than humans.
That sounds absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. And the thing about it, too, is I didn't expect this type of technology to exist at this point in time. I thought it sounded like a cute idea that, how intense can it possibly be? How good can it be? They put me in the arena and had one of the robots walk out towards me, and it was like some kind of a nightmare from a science fiction movie. If the robot hadn't stopped walking, I would have turned and ran away screaming. That's how intimidating it was. And each robot has a different look, a different name, a different face, a different characteristic about it. Drone Strike, Robo Hammer, Scorpio, that was my favorite because he had blades on his fists. Game Over, Axe. So it was something out of like some kind of a weird Salvador Dali dream where you're in this arena. There's all these crazy, weird creatures walking around like a Clive Barker movie. It really was very mind-blowing and definitely something that we've never seen before in the history of television.
Well, I've been to a couple of the WWE shows, and the audience there is its own entity. It's like being in this mad jungle, and it's always so fun and crazy. I'm wondering, do you guys bring in the same kind of audience to watch these robots fight? How have they taken it? How can you get tickets to watch it live?
Well, like I said, we'd never done this before. So when we filmed, we had, people would come in to watch, and I think they were kind of coming in. Maybe it was just a gig for them, extra work. But they would come in, I'm just here to make, $10 an hour and get a free sandwich for lunch. But as the fights progressed, you could see people kind of putting away their preconceptions and getting totally into this. And I did color commentary for the fights, and I was jumping up out of my chair, screaming and yelling, not because I was supposed to. There wasn't a producer in my ear telling me to. As a matter of fact, they told me to not yell and scream. And I was like, listen, you guys need to shut your mouth because I'm into this, and this is what it is. You want emotion, you want reality, you're getting it. So put your earpiece away and let me do what I want to do, which is react to what's going on. And you can see all the people getting into it as well. And when we do season 2, I bet you we could probably sell tickets for these fights. I think there'll be a lot of different demographics of people who will be interested in watching this. There will be, the wrestling fans, the boxing fans. The fights are basically judged by boxing judges and evaluated on the same characteristics and point judgment that boxing matches are. Then you have the tech people, the nerds, or like I said, as I like to call them, just really smart people. Then you have people that are just kind of intrigued by robots. Who's not intrigued by robots, especially living, quote unquote, breathing, giant fighting robots that could kill you? You get too close to one of these robots with the 2,000 PSI's punch, it would cave your head in. So there's a lot of different elements. Plus there's the drama between the teams. There's that element of it. So we really are doing something that's never been done for a lot of different types of people that are in a lot of different types of entertainment.
Well, how heavy are these things in the terms of taking them out on the road and touring them across the United States? Is that something that could happen where you could go to different cities?
I don't know in this incarnation if you could do that because they're huge. I mean, they are giant. They're giants. Like I said, they cost almost $1 million each to make them. And then to control them, I mean, the tech will sit in like this big console, and they will kind of run the lower half. Also be in charge of the repairs that need to be made in the middle of these fights. And that's another thing. You need to have the editing time because, you know, if one of these robots gets severely damaged, you have half an hour to get it back in the playing field. If you can't do that, you lose a point. Then you got 2 hours to try and fix whatever you can to get it back up. So there's a lot of time in between the fights with these robots because they're not, you know, they're not humans. They need to be repaired. And then, of course, the jockey will put on this exoskeleton. When the jockey punches, the robot punches. When the jockey moves, the robot moves. So there's a lot of mechanics and software and sensors involved to get that going. I'm sure there will be a time when we can take this on the road. Because with the amount of technology that these guys have in LA that put together and built these robots, I'm sure as they learn more and as the show grows, they'll be able to do that. And that could be something I think would be a very viable thing over the next, 2, 3, 4 years to have, traveling robot fights. You could probably replace human boxing with robot boxing. The only problem is what happens when the robots finally get a mind of their own and take over the planet? Then we're all screwed.
Yeah, it's the Terminator scenario.
It is, except for I'm the host of this show, so they're going to know me, so they're going to keep me in a cage as a little pet and feed me bread scraps just to entertain them, like a little spider monkey.
Well, but the robots might free you by accident, and then you will be the only one that can save the world.
Jericho Connor taking over the planet, taking the planet back.
Yes.
Freedom Fighter Jericho, that's me. Join the resistance.
That's funny. Now, I wanted to know, you were talking about the dynamics between the nerds and the guys that know how to fight. Do we see those guys outside of the ring working together, or is their dynamic all inside the ring?
No, we see that. I mean, that's another interesting part of the show. I mean, there is the reality element of it, too, which is another, like I said, the face of the show is these really incredibly cool robots, but the heart of the show is still the human element. And you're taking two strangers, putting them together. Nerds is kind of, in this day and age, is almost a compliment. Like I said, there's nothing nerdy about someone who knows how to build and deconstruct these robots. I felt like a Neanderthal around these people sometimes, trying to figure out fire bad, robots smoke, why? And they're like, well, the actuator is blown. You got to stick it to the perpetrator, and we got to get the software going. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And that's the cool thing about the show. You have the technological element, which people will understand that are into it. Then people like myself that have no idea what it means, I'm kind of the layman explaining to the audience. The actuator is the doohickey that connects the top half of the robot to the bottom half of the robot. So I mean, but you get the element of these people that they have to work together. They have to have chemistry, not only outside of the arena but in the arena. And it was the teams that could make the robots an extension of themselves that were able to take it to the next level. I mean, you could take Stephen Hawking and Schwarzenegger circa 1985, put them together as a team. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the fight just because you have an uber genius and an uber powerhouse. It's how they work together to make this robot move and how they react to the onslaught and to the attacks from the other robot, how they're blocking it, how they're counterattacking it. So you would see that kind of coming through as the fights move forward. And the first episode, we'd never seen this. No one had ever done it. But people were watching. The teams were watching. And then as the rounds progressed, the teams were learning from the other team's mistakes and getting better. So by the time we hit episode 9 and the grand finale, that fight was probably the best fight in the whole tournament. We couldn't have written it better, but we didn't write it. It's just the way that it happened.
Well, and last question, do you allow yourself to root for a particular team, or are you just kind of staying on the sidelines?
No, I mean, I did stay on the sidelines, but I did have favorites. Scorpio was my favorite robot just because it looked really cool, very insect-like, and it had blades on its fist, and that's how it was able to cut one of the robots in two, which I just thought was the coolest thing ever. But you did get into that, and also you got into the teams. Certain people had, more hard luck stories. Other people had, more of a silver spoon type story, but you still watch how they react. And it was funny too, because like I said, these people that came in to watch the fights, they would pick and choose their favorites. Not on cue, not by us holding up an applause sign or whatever. There was one robot called Steampunk, and for whatever reason, they loved Steampunk, and they were chanting Steampunk and booing its opponents. And for me, I know that it's good to be booed because it shows that people are interested in what's going on. But for people just off the street that are getting booed, they were really kind of mind-funked because of it, going like, why are these people booing me? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Embrace that negative energy and use it in your fights. But people are still like, I just want to be liked. And it's like, it's okay to be booed. This is a show. So you had to kind of explain that element too. But people did pick and choose their favorites because the robots looked so cool. Instantly when you see them, oh, that's my favorite. I don't even know what this one does, but it looks like amazingly cool. And that, this is like a toy maker's dream. When this show gets huge, you're going to see action figures and video games all based around these robots because they all have the different looks and elements and personalities. And that's another cool factor about Robot Combat League as well.
Okay, well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. I'm super excited to see this show. So, and please don't let it turn into the Terminator, though. You're the only one that can save us.
I'm the only hope. I'm already studying how to shut down this entire robot revolution. I'm on it. Don't worry, Planet Earth. I'm here to save you. February 26th, Sci-Fi Channel. We'll see you there.